This week's practice is about deep core strength. So we're going to work on that and talk a little bit about how we develop these different patterns in the body when the deep part of our core is weak. So it can result in a lot of different problems. And I know that some of you have been dealing with some of this stuff. So functional core weakness, it's not like what we're talking about is not the front of the abdomen, that six pack. It's really deep core. So we're talking like from the pelvic floor internally, the support along the spine and the central channel of the body. And as a culture, we tend to be weak in this area. Just sitting can do it, just gravity, age, things like that, posture collapsing, those kinds of things. But when the deep core is weak, we can end up with things like sciatica. So if the core is weak, it fails to stabilize the pelvis, and then the pelvic muscles tend to compensate, and that can result in issues with sciatica. This compensation can lead to chronically tight internal hip muscles, restricting the sciatic nerve and causing that pain that radiates down the leg. It can also cause mid-back pain. So if our posture collapses, maybe our head protrudes a little forward, our shoulders round, that can end up causing that pain like in between the shoulder blade area. Of course, lower back pain is very common with weak core. This has to do with the muscle called the transverse abdominis. It's kind of like a corset that wraps around underneath the rib cage, and it supports the spine. And when that's weak, it can cause inactive muscles in the torso, and this can lead to lack of stability and desperately tight muscles and lower back pain. Sacroiliac pain and instability. So the pelvis is where our core connects to the lower body. Strong and active core wraps completely around the pelvis to hold it stable and symmetrical. So if we have a weak and inactive core, it directly impacts the stability of these joints and can lead to sacroiliac pain. Rib misalignment and instability. So the rib cage is where our core connects to the upper body. Strong and active core wraps around the rib cage, again, holding it symmetrical. But when it's inactive, we often have compensation patterns that pull the ribs out of alignment. So they're not like centered over the body. It can lead to sharp pain when we take a deep breath and difficulty moving the arms and the upper body. So if we're tight in here, it can limit our range of motion in the arms. Incontinence. Again, this is pelvic floor stuff. So we can imagine the core is like a cylinder in the body, where the pelvic floor is the bottom of the cylinder, wraps all the way around. And so when our core is weak and collapsed, it can affect the function of the pelvic floor. It can lead to a deflated balloon presentation of the core, allowing extra pressure to fall in the pelvic floor. A weak core is almost always connected to a weak pelvic floor. As a result, then we can have bladder issues as well. Pelvic organ prolapse is when the organs tend to drop toward the lower pelvis. Again, that's lack of core strength to help kind of keep things in place. Neck pain. Every muscle in the body has an optimal alignment where it works pain-free. When the core is weak, the body tends to round forward, and then it creates issues in the neck. Sometimes the head comes more forward, requiring the muscles around the neck to fight to basically keep our head from falling off the body. And that constant strain can create nagging neck pain, as well as upper tension in the shoulder, jaw, headaches, all that. And two more, finally. So fallen arches in the feet. When our butt muscles become tight and cause our hips to externally rotate, our feet receive too much pressure and the internal portion of the arch collapsed. And that's, again, a lot of it's due to collapsed core. Hip pain is the last one. As one system fails to do its job, other areas are directly impacted. It's not uncommon to have sore, achy, clicking hips, or even chronic hip stiffness as a result of functional core weakness. So that's a lot of stuff that can happen when our core is weak. And it's not always just like the muscles being weak. A lot of it is, as we talk about in somatics a lot, the connection to our brain. So we've all heard these stories of like superhuman strength that happens when there's an emergency, right? You need to save your child, then you can suddenly lift a car or something crazy like that, right? So the strength is always there, but a lot of times it's dormant. And so those muscles in the core are just kind of like collapsed, weak, but we can activate it. And so it's a lot of it's the brain. And so when the brain senses that the core is collapsed, it often creates these compensation patterns to help protect the body because it's noticing there's lack of internal strength, and then other areas tend to grip and compensate, leading to a lot of those things that we just talked about. Okay, so we're going to work some pelvic floor, work a little bit of core, and then the second half we'll also do some releasing because we want to strengthen it, but we also don't want it to get like, too tight. So you ever see like a weightlifter super tight, super, and they're like this, and when they're like that, it just creates tension in the core and then you can't breathe. Because if you go like this, just go like that for a second and try to breathe, like you literally cannot breathe when you have that kind of tightness in your body. So we have to release it as well. So go ahead, come on your backs and we'll get started. So just go ahead and grab a block, keep it nearby. Actually, keep both blocks nearby. And we're just gonna go ahead and put our feet flat. Just go ahead and come into your breathing, just a normal, relaxed breath to begin. Our breath actually also has a big impact on our core. Our diaphragm isn't typically talked about in context of our core, but it's located right at the center of our abdomen. And the diaphragm connects to many of our body's stabilizers. It works in close relationship with our deep abdominals, pelvic floor, our lower back muscles. So our diaphragm is part of our intrinsic core. You can think of these muscles as forming the sides of a pressurized container, where the pelvic floor is the bottom. The deep abdominal and back muscles form the sides, and the diaphragm is kind of like the lid on the top. And if any of these muscles are not performing their tasks, the container will start to lose pressure, weakening the stable base you need to move effectively. The brain organizes how all of these muscles work together to make our movements fluid and effective. So if our diaphragm is tense and less flexible, in turn causing other core muscles to weaken, other nearby muscles like in the hips or other parts of the trunk can be recruited to create core stability. So let's go ahead and just really find a diaphragmatic breath. Breathe into your abdomen, breathe out into your rib cage. And we'll take a few more breaths there. So just notice if there's any areas of restriction in your breath as you're breathing in, breathing out. So I forgot to do the mute here. Okay. So now we're going to place our hands on the front rib cage. So just go ahead, place your hands there. And now as you breathe in, try to press your ribs out towards your hands. And as you breathe out, try to move your rib cage in, away from your hands, contracting. And we're going to repeat that. Inhale, breathe into your hands. Exhale, contract the ribs away from the hands. Notice how other muscles start to engage as you do this. So maybe you're feeling low belly muscles, maybe even feel a little pelvic floor contraction. Notice what you feel. Okay, now bring your fingers to the center of your bottom ribs. So right there in the center, we're going to start to give a little bit of a massage. And work your fingers underneath your diaphragm. Underneath your rib cage. And we're going to hit a little bit of the fascia around the diaphragm. Go all the way from the center outward towards your outer rib cage, so along the sides, and then go back in and just kind of massage right underneath there. So again, if this is tight and limited, other muscles will tend to compensate for this tightness in the diaphragm area. Particularly this one relates a lot to neck. So if our diaphragm is tight, we're going to have tight neck and upper shoulder muscles because they compensate for tight rib cage and tight diaphragm. Just do that one more round, all the way in, all the way out. Notice for any areas of tenderness or soreness. And now go ahead and bring your hands back on your rib cage and take a few more of those breaths. Breathe out into your hands, and as you exhale, contract your ribs away from your hands. Let's do 3 more breaths. Finish a nice long exhalation. The exhalations engage your core muscles. Finish out that last one. And then we're going to grab those 2 blocks. Okay, so we're going to start by coming into supportive bridge. Place your block under the back of your pelvis. And then take your other block between your legs somewhere. Could be knees, could be inner thighs, whatever's comfortable for you. Okay, so now we're going to work today on what we call the bandhas in yoga. So the bandhas, they're also called the root lock, the abdominal lock, and the chin lock. They help us manage our core energy and our core vitality. It helps us align our spine. It helps strengthen the pelvic floor, and it helps support the spine. So there's lots of benefits to this. So we're going to take an inhale, and as you exhale, do that rib cage contraction. We're going to add some parts on. So inhale out into your ribs. Exhale, this time, contract your ribs, squeeze the block between your inner thighs. And that helps activate the abductor muscles of the inner thighs. Keep that going. Squeeze the block, contract your ribs. Now I want you to imagine that with your pelvic floor, you're going to try and pick up a little marble or something like that. So inhale, exhale, squeeze your block, and now lift your pelvic floor muscles up and in. And we're going to continue that now a few rounds. So inhale, exhale, we're contracting the ribs. We're squeezing the block, and we're lifting the pelvic floor muscles. And then as you inhale, make sure you relax everything. So relax through your ribs, your belly, your pelvic floor. And now adding on one more piece. as you lift that imaginary marble, imagine you're pulling that marble all the way up to your navel and contract towards your navel. Squeeze your block and then repeat. Inhale, relax everything, expand, soften. Exhale, contract. And like a zipper from your pelvic floor to your navel, draw up. So this little pelvic floor squeezing the block exercise starts to give us support from the bottom up internally. So we're not just strengthening our six pack, we're doing deep internal strengthening. But as we inhale and relax, it's almost like the pandiculations that we do in somatics. We're contracting and then we're letting the brain realize that we're releasing, because pelvic floor can tense up and get really exhausted. And then that incontinence can happen not because our muscles are weak, but because they're holding on, they're tight, they're exhausted, and then they don't function well because they've been so tired out. Okay, we're going to revisit that a little bit later. Let's go ahead, take that block away from the inner thighs and lift up, take the other block out of the way, and then just do a little windshield wiper to release the back. Okay, coming back to the center. Now, we do a lot of pelvic tilts in somatic. I'm starting to think that the pelvic tilt is like the key to the universe, because when the pelvic tilt is off, it affects so much stuff in our bodies. So we're going to do pelvic tilts, and then we're going to use that for some other stuff. So hands on the fronts of your pelvis. Inhale, tip your tailbone forward. Exhale, flatten, press your lower back down, and then continue. So chances are, if our pelvic tilt is off, our core muscles are also off, particularly if our pelvis tends to tip forward. It creates imbalances in our core muscles. And it creates imbalances in the pelvic floor as well. So just go ahead and do a few more of those. Inhale, tailbone forward. Exhale, flatten the lower back. And as you flatten the lower back, notice the pelvic floor muscles tend to tighten. So see if you might observe that for a bit. So if we tend to have a pelvis that would tip backwards, it's a lot less common from what I see in bodies in yoga. Your pelvic floor is probably pretty tight. You have pelvic floor or pelvic tilt that tips forward, your pelvic floor may be, a little bit weak or disengaged rather. Let's see if you can notice that. Okay. So pause now, let your spine be in a neutral position. And in a neutral position, there is a little curve, right? It's not completely flat. It's not overly arched. There's a slight curve there. So that's what we would normally want in a neutral spine. Because if our spine were stick straight, it would lack buoyancy. So that little bit of a curve gives it a little bit of cushioning in between the discs. All right, so now we're going to intentionally flatten the lower back and keep it there, because I want you to use your lower core muscles and not your lower back muscles for this next series. So keep your lower back flat, and we're going to simply march in place. So lift your right knee up and then let it come down. And march in place one at a time. Try to keep your lower back flat so that you're not utilizing lower back muscles. You're utilizing core muscles as you lift one leg at a time. Take a few more rounds and go slowly and mindfully. We're going to make this a little more challenging now. So relax for a moment. Take a nice full breath in and out. Now we're going to go the opposite way. We're going to bring our knees over our hips. Keep that lower back flat so that you're not letting that abs disengage. And then one at a time, tap one foot down and then the other. And keep the pelvic tilt. So that's called a posterior tilt when we press that lower back into the floor. Now, if your lower back tends to arch when you do this, and it's hard to keep the lower back flat, don't touch down all the way. Just go as far as you can. Maybe you go part way so that we're not going into lower back. Because that is a compensation pattern for those weaker abdominal muscles. Always feel free to take breaks if you need to. Okay, we're going to do one more round just like this. Okay, and then go ahead and release. Let the feet come down. Take a couple of breaths. Relax through the abdomen. Feel free at any time. You want to take a little windshield wiper. Release. All right, come back to the center. Now we're going to do a core stabilization movement called the gum exercise. Some of you have probably done this one with me before, but we're going to be imagining there's sticky gum under your feet, and the sticky gum is preventing you from lifting your foot up. And the other big job I want you to do is to stabilize your pelvis so it doesn't wobble so much side to side. So imagine that sticky gum under your right foot. Keep your lower back neutral, pressing it down toward the floor. And try to lift your right foot, but don't lift it. Just like it's really hard to lift. Try to lift it, but don't lift it. And then release it. Now I want you to observe the muscles that are working as you do this. Now try left foot, really sticky gum. You're trying to lift it, but you can't lift it. Feel muscles that are engaging in your lower abdomen, and then relax it. Okay, go side to side a few times, trying to lift the foot up, but you're not actually lifting it up off the floor. Maybe it gets a little bit lighter. Notice that the other foot has to press down for that to happen. And as you do this, try not to let the pelvis wobble side to side. So stabilize as best as you can. You might also notice that, you're engaging through the back of the leg a little bit. We're using a little hamstring that we focused on last week in class. Now we're going to actually lift that foot off the ground. So it's really sticky. It's hard to lift, but now it comes off the floor about 1 inch or 2, and then switch over. And again, it's almost like marching in place, but you're really going slowly, trying to notice these core muscles engaging. Trying to keep the pelvis from shifting a lot right to left. So I like to imagine there's a zipper from the hip bone to hip bone across the center, and they're drawing towards each other so that we don't wobble side to side. Try to keep your neck relaxed and keep breathing as you do this. And go really slowly. This is not the kind of core work that we're doing like 101 sit-ups. It's deep, mindful work that strengthens us from the inside out. Okay, now let that go for a moment. Take a breath or two. You can repeat that, or we're gonna make it more challenging now by lifting the hips a little off the ground. So, flatten the lower back and then lift the hips up just a little bit. You can slide your hands underneath there. So you don't wanna go real high like a bridge. You're gonna stay low. And now there's that sticky gum underneath your feet. And we're gonna try and lift the right foot, but we're not gonna lift it. And then left side, try to lift it, but don't lift it. Go side to side. And if this is too much or you get hamstring cramps, you can go back to bringing your pelvis back to the floor. So you're basically just kind of shifting the weight from one foot to the other. One foot gets lighter, one foot gets heavier, and we're not lifting the foot up. Now, if that feels like you want to go to that next step, you could try to lift a foot off the floor. Keep that pelvic tilt going on. That's going to help. So if we let the pelvis kind of arch into the lower back, it's going to make this a lot more challenging. Try to stabilize the pelvis. Sometimes doing the robot arms can help because then you can assist with your arms. So your arms can dig into the floor. So you could try that, but keep trying to tip into posterior tilt. So the tailbone is kind of lifting up. And if it's too hard, go back to hips down or back to not lifting a foot. See how you do. One more round on each side. And then release and come down. Take a couple breaths, a windshield wiper. See what feels good. Going into some more traditional arch and curl movements now. So we know this one, we're gonna take block between the inner thighs again and interlace your hands behind the back of your head. And we're gonna go inhale into our arched back. So your back arches away from the floor, press your elbows down, and then exhale, curl up. And as you curl up, squeeze your block. And then let's repeat. Inhale, come down, open the elbows, arch the back. Exhale, curl up, press your lower back down, squeeze your block. So now we're building strength through the inner thighs, the pelvic floor, the transverse abdominis, the psoas. All of these are deep core stabilizing muscles. Couple more rounds. Take nice long exhales. 2 more. And then release. So go ahead and take your block out. Feel free to windshield wiper or do any releasing you might want to do. Do a couple more things here on our back. Okay. So go ahead, straighten your legs. And then you can notice when your legs are straight, what does it feel like in that lower back curve? If it feels excessive, you might need to kind of scoot your tailbone down toward your feet to lengthen the lower back a bit. Now we're going to work with the straight legs. Just let your right leg roll open. And let the knee bend a little bit. And then relax it. Still working with your right leg. Roll the right leg open. Bend the knee a little bit. And now adding on. Right leg rolls open, bend the knee a little bit. And now try to pick the foot and leg up off the floor. Feel your inner thigh there. And then let it come back down, rotate back to neutral. And then let's repeat that. Let the leg roll open, bend the knee a little, and then lift. And just notice, do your back muscles grip when you do that? Maybe you don't want to lift so much. But here, we're strengthening the inner thigh. Notice your inner leg, inner thigh muscles working to lift that leg up. Good, now this time lift the leg a little higher as long as it doesn't bother your back. You're still turning that foot out, and then you're gonna release it down and let it come back to neutral, okay? If it's too much, just stay low. Sometimes it's actually easier to go a little higher. Here, we're gonna strengthen some hip flexor, psoas, inner thigh, inner leg. And the whole inner leg is actually related to our deep inner core. Okay, changing it up now. Let that leg roll open. Lift it up. And now pull your knee up and out toward the side. And extend the leg out to the side. Now from here, imagine there's a heavy weight on your inner thigh. Pull that leg up, up, up to the center. And then bend the knee, set the foot down, and slide it back out. Okay. Well, let's try that a few times. Let the leg roll open. Lift the leg up. Pull the knee up and out toward the side. And then extend the leg, reaching through your heel. And then slowly imagining a heavy weight on that leg. Lift it up, 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 strengthening that inseam of the leg. And then let the foot come back down and straighten. Okay, so 2 more like this. Lift, pull up. Extend, reach through your heel and then slowly pull that leg up. Foot comes down, extend. 1 more time. Okay, let's go ahead and just relax that leg. Give it a little shake. Let it go for a moment. Breathe in, breathe out. Feel that right leg versus the left right now. How it's perceived in your mind. Sensations there. And then we'll do that on the other side. So left leg, just let it roll open and bend the knee a little bit. And then let it come back. So just do that a few rounds. Roll the leg open, bend the knee, bring it back. Okay, so now we're gonna add a little lift, bend the knee, and lift it up just a little bit. Bring it back down and release. Feel that whole inner leg engaging. Make sure you relax in between repetitions so we let go of the effort. Now start to lift that leg a little higher. See how it feels to bring it up a little bit more. Anything is too much. Always feel free to take a break, modify. Notice if it's different on one leg versus the other. Is one leg a little easier to get off the ground than the other? You might be able to place your hand somewhere along the inner thigh. And then as you lift that leg, notice like those muscles start to engage there. You start to feel some of those muscles working. Okay, so now we're gonna lift the leg, pull the knee up, extend it out to the side, reach through your heel, and then a heavy weight on that inner leg, bring it up to center, release the foot down, extend the leg. Okay, make sure you're breathing here. There's no particular breath pattern, but we want to make sure we're not holding the breath. Move slowly, take a couple more rounds. Lift it first, then pull it out to the side and extend it. Heavy weight, bring it up. Bend the knee and extend. Okay, so two more. I think we did this move a while back. Also really targets the whole inner leg, which is the liver pathway in Chinese medicine. Last one. And then let both legs be out for a moment. Give them a little shake, a little bounce, and just feel, sense, observe that left side now. So we're going to do one more variation of the arch and curl. Then we're going to come up and do a little seated work. So we're going to take our hands back behind the back of the head, interlace. Bend the left knee so the foot is flat. And we're going to do 3 rounds here. So we're going to do arch the back, and then you're going to lift the leg up and curl up. Okay, so we're going to do 3 of those. Inhale, come down, arch. Exhale, lift up, curl up. One more. Okay, now 3 rounds with the leg turned open. So inhale, arch, turn the leg open, exhale, curl up with the leg turned out, kind of like what we just did. Bring it down, inhale, arch. Exhale, leg is externally rotated, come up. And this strengthens different parts of the psoas, different parts of our deep core. After 3 rounds like that, inhale, arch, and now turn the leg in and lift it up. So the foot rotates in, the leg turns into the middle, and we are internally rotating. Inhale, arch, exhale, lift up. One more. Good, and then bend that knee. Straighten the other leg. 3 rounds in each position. Inhale, arch. Exhale, straight leg through the center. A lot of us have weak hip flexor psoas muscles. And that can really affect the pelvic tilt. It can affect our lower back vertebrae. So doing leg lifts with this little curl up really helps strengthen the hip flexors and psoas, which are often in a passive position throughout our day when we're sitting. So move into external if you haven't. And this whole series also alternates between contracting the diaphragm area and then opening it up, releasing it. And then 3 internal when you're ready. After you finish 3 in each position, go ahead and relax. Take a few breaths. Really breathe into the belly. The abdomen be soft for another round or 2. Okay, so we're gonna bend the knees and roll to your side. Take a pause before bringing yourself up into a seated position. Coming into a cross-leg position if you're comfortable, and feel free if you want to sit up on a blanket for a little support. Feel free to stick blocks under your knees for some support. And then take a moment and widen through your sit bones. And what that does is it opens the space of the pelvic floor a little bit more and gives you a more open base. So you want to feel like your pelvic floor is in a neutral position. So it's not tipped forward or tipped back. You're not on the back of your sit bones or the front, and you feel like you're right on top, and the head is right on top of the pelvic floor. So we're going to work a little bit more on those bandhas, okay? So sit up tall, and then you're welcome to close your eyes or keep them open, whatever works for you. Take an inhale. And then exhale, imagine you're picking up the marble with your pelvic floor. Try to bring the marble all the way up towards your navel. And then inhale, relax through the belly and the pelvic floor, but try not to collapse the spine. And feel free to take the legs out straight if you like. So take a couple rounds. Yep, inhale. Exhale, lift. Lift the imaginary marble all the way up towards your navel. And as you inhale, you want to make sure you're relaxing those internal muscles. Notice how it gives you support from the inside. It supports your lower spine. It supports your organ body. It gives you that support through your whole center. But we also want to make sure that we're doing the whole release in between. So this exercise works best when your spine is neutral, so you're not in a forward bend or a backward bend. You have everything stacked up through your center. Okay, so let that go for a second. We're going to now take the arms and reach them up overhead. Interlace your palms, press your palms up. Okay, now try again. Inhale. And when you inhale, try to remember when your hands were here, inhale out into your ribs. And now as you exhale, pelvic floor, bring up the marble, but also contract your side ribs. Okay, let's try that a few more rounds. Also, make sure your chin is level or you're lifting the back of your skull and your chin comes slightly down because we don't want, again, to mess up the alignment of the spine. So we keep that chin level. 2 more. So important for the health of our lower back and our pelvic bones to keep the pelvic floor strong and supple. Okay, let those arms come down and then straighten out your legs. I'm gonna go sideways because it'll be better for the video. Okay, your hands are gonna support behind you. Take your shoulders back. And this is similar to what we did on our back. We're gonna let the leg roll open, bend the knee, and lift the leg up. And then we're using that inner thigh muscle, and then we release it down. Let's work with that same leg. Let it roll open, lift it up. So we strengthen that inner thigh. We're also probably gonna feel a little quad that connects into the pelvic floor. Now we're gonna lift it up and pull it back. Extend it out to the side. Bring the foot up and then draw that leg back in and release. Okay, turn the leg out, lift it up, pull it back using the psoas hip flexor, extend, turn the leg up and then squeeze it back in. 1 more of these. Okay, take a little break, shake it out if you want to. And let's do that on the other side. So we're gonna take the leg out, lift it up. Just do 1 or 2 of those before we add on that whole sequence. Turn it out, lift it up. Notice if one leg is different than the other. Lift it up and now pull it back. We're using that hip flexor. Extend it. And then turn the leg neutral. Squeeze it back in using that inner thigh and release. Okay, so try a couple of those. One more round. You feeling that one? A lot of us are weak on the inner thighs. That can make that one a little challenging. Bounce it out, shake it out. Now we're going to move into a little releasing work because we don't have that much time left. So we're going to grab our second blanket. And we're going to open it up so it's like this size. We're going to put that down and roll it up from the long side. Okay. So feel free if you want to get one of the yoga blankets in the back if you don't have the right kind of blanket. Okay, so we make a long tube. Looks kind of like this. Yeah. And then we're going to put the seam edge down and make a U shape out of it. So you pull the ends down and the top of the U, so it's like an upside down U, really. Okay, y'all got that? We're gonna lay over it. And I want you to have this right underneath those ribs. Remember we did the little diaphragm massage in the beginning? That's where I want the U to go right underneath the rib cage, okay? So we're gonna come down and try to position this so that it's underneath your rib cage. Now, if you have tightness in your breathing, this can be really helpful. So it's like a myofascial release for the diaphragm and psoas area. Okay, so position it and then tuck the ends in close enough so that it'll feel a little better with it tucked in. And then come onto your forearms, holding onto your opposite elbows. Okay, so just take a breath or two, feeling that pressure, gentle pressure of the blanket. Breathe against the resistance of the blanket. Okay, so now we're gonna make it a little more interesting by tucking the toes under, making sure that you're on the mat, so you're not slipping on the floor. And then pushing your arms, lift your chest higher and lift your kneecaps up. So now you might feel a little more pressure there, and we're gonna take a sway to the right. And as I look over my right shoulder, pull the elbows to the left, and then go the other side. Look over your left shoulder, pull the elbows to the right. And now sway side to side. At the same time, feel like you're pulling your belly away from your legs. Pull your rib cage. And this starts to give a deep release into some of those, psoas, diaphragm, deep core muscles. Just let that blanket give a gentle myofascial release. This can also benefit our digestion when we open up the deep belly here. Try to gently pull with your arms. Last round. Back to the center. And if it's okay for you, you might need to shift forward a little bit, rest down. You need to stay up, stay up. And then that pressure might go a little deeper into that area around the rib cage. Okay, now pick up your shins and your feet and prop back up where you were. And so now with the knees bent, we open up a bit more through the lower abdomen quad area and go back to that same pulling side to side. If you want, you can let your knees and hips get involved, almost like a bit of a windshield wiper. So as I'm going to the left, my knees, my shins and my feet go a little to the right. If this is too much on your lower back, then let the shins and feet come down. Because now it does give a little bit more lower back compression. Okay, and then relax the feet down. Again, you might come down for a bit. Okay. Now bring the right knee out to the side, come back up. Still with that blanket tucked in there. Walk your upper body toward the right knee. So come into a side bend. And then if it's okay for you, left toes, tuck them under, lift that knee off the floor, and then pull your elbows toward the left as you look toward your right knee. Get that deep stretch, and then soften back towards center. Keep the arms where they are, just the head, and then repeat. Try to keep that left heel drawing back and move in and out. How far you go, up to you. So try not to overdo. And take a few more rounds. Think about your left rib cage pulling away from your hip to get that deep stretch in the lower abdomen. After this next one, come back to center. Feel free to drop down if you like. Feel free to stay up if you like. And then left knee out to the side, walk over. Make sure you tuck that blanket down. So if it's popping out to the side, tuck it in. And then right toes could tuck under, lift that right kneecap. Pull your elbows toward the right as you look toward that left knee and go in and out. Inhale as you move into that stretch. Exhale. Release. This, if one side feels a lot tighter than the other, you might also feel what's going on in your spine when you do this. Really good for opening up the lower vertebrae in your spine. One more. And then make your way back to the center. Let's take the blanket away and come all the way down and just have a few breaths. Stay there for a couple moments and just breathe into your low belly. See how it feels after taking the resistance of the blanket away. How does it feel to breathe? Okay, from here, go ahead, press back to a child's pose. Stretch out your lower back a minute. Okay, so we're gonna come up and grab our single tennis ball. I'm gonna run out of time as usual. So we're gonna release a little bit of our side outer hip. So this is an area that can get overworked if we do a lot of sitting, and it can cause, so if that's overworked, it can cause the part of the hip here to not support us. So as we release this, it can help us sort of activate this other area. So we're gonna be on our side and you're gonna take the ball into the outer upper hip and you're just gonna let your weight rock onto it. So you're gonna bend your knees and you're gonna just rock a little in and out. This is called the TFL muscle. The tensor fascia latae sounds like a drink, but it's not. It's the TFL at the top of your IT band area. And the IT band area is not the deep core, but it is a stabilizing muscle. And this little guy at the top can get really tight. So this is sort of a complementary release to the work we're doing tonight. Feel free to move it a little up or down if you want. I would try to avoid the really bony areas and just kind of keep it on a little bit of a fleshier area if possible. You know, some of you guys have less padding than I do here, so you might, you know, put it under your blanket if it's too intense. Okay. And then go ahead and release that and pop it over to the other side. So get that toward the top of the IT band. And how much weight you get into is up to you. So if you stay up higher, it's going to be less intensity than if you're down lower. And then rock. So put it below the hip bone area. Feel free to move it a little up, down. So when the inner core is weak, a lot of times the legs also turn out a little bit like duck feet, duck legs, and that can tighten this little guy up. So here, this is a good release for it. So it's just, again, sort of complementary to what we're doing. Okay, let's go ahead and come off of that and now back down onto your back. I don't think we're gonna get to the double ball thing. We're gonna need one block. We're gonna do one more thing here on our back. So come down and just take a breath or two after that ball work. All right, so now we're gonna take that right leg, turn it open like we've been doing. We're gonna slide it up, keeping the foot on the floor like tree pose. And now take your block to your inner thigh. Press the block and the hand into the block, the leg into the block sandwich we've been working on in recent weeks. This time we're gonna lift the foot off the floor. And then we're using a lot of inner thigh, outer hip, but see if you could relax outer hip and just kind of use inner thigh more. And then start to straighten that leg out to the side and rebend while you keep a little bit of pressure from the block. So that inner thigh has to work a little bit more. Take a few more rounds, slowly straighten any amount. You don't have to go all the way, and rebend. Notice if you're holding your breath, try to bring in your breath. That inner thigh working. Again, inner thigh strength is part of deep core strength, part of pelvic floor strength. And then bend it and release it down. Relax it. Take the block away. Bring the knee up and straighten the leg. And take a breath or two. So sometimes in getting the inner thighs to turn on can help release compensator muscles, because that's an area of the body that a lot of us, we don't really strengthen on a regular basis. So I'm going to try the other side. Let the left leg roll open. Slide the foot up like tree pose. Put your block on the inner thigh. Make your block sandwich with your hand and leg, and then lift the foot. Try to relax through outer hip as best you can, and use the inner thigh by pressing up into the block. And then straighten and bend a few times. Going slowly, reaching through your heel and breathing. Keep a little pressure there, and you don't have to go all the way straight. Maybe you go like a little micro bend, so a little micro movement, just a small movement might be enough. And one side is probably weaker than the other. Do what you can. If you can, the whole time that knee and shin and foot stay off the ground. Sometimes you get a little shaking going on if these muscles are not used to working. So a little quiver can happen. One more time. Let the foot come down, relax it for a moment. Bring the knee up, straighten the leg. Give your legs a little roll in and out, a little bounce up and down. And then just take a moment, drop in, breathe out. Okay, last thing. You need to come up for a moment and take your two blocks and put them short end to short end. And we're going to take our blanket, unroll it. Wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be. Okay, and we're going to take that blanket and fold it up so that it goes on top of the blocks. So it makes a little bolster. Okay, and then we're going to put our feet up on top of it as we come down. Take your feet as wide as the blocks are. Take your arms out to T. Okay, windshield wiper your knees from right to left. The next time your knees go to the right, let them stay to the right. Walk your feet a little to the left, and then bring your right foot to the floor. And your left shin and foot stay up onto the block. Okay, from here, we're going to push into the left foot and look over your left shoulder and stretch that inner thigh, hip flexor area, and then relax it back down. Push into the left foot, look over your left shoulder, let your back arch a little bit, and then release. And do that a few more rounds. Inhale as you do that. Exhale to release. Last one, come back to center, both feet up on the blocks, even out. And then windshield wiper, right to left. The next time your knees drop to the left, let them stay there. Scoot your feet toward the right And let the left foot come to the floor off the blocks. The right foot should be up on the block, so adjust so that it's on the block. And then look over to your right shoulder, push into your right foot, arch through your back, and stretch the front of the hip, the inner thigh, and then relax back down. And then repeat. Inhale as you go into that stretch, and then exhale to release. 2 more. And then relax, come back to the center, both feet on the blocks, windshield wiper, 1 more time. Back to the center, walk your feet together and drop your knees apart with your feet and shins up on the block. So it opens the inner thighs, opens the pelvic floor. And then just take a couple of nice deep breaths there, getting that breath all the way down toward the pelvic floor. So breathe in and imagine you could breathe all the way down into your lower belly, pelvic floor. Exhale the breath all the way out and take a few more rounds. Right, and then let's go ahead, bring those knees together, bring the knees into the chest, and do some circles or rocks on your lower back. Feel free to take it into happy baby if you like, but keep it nice and loose, maybe holding behind the knees, or you can stick with a knee hug if you like. Now that block blanket setup is still there. If you would like, you can use it for a knee support. So drape your legs over the support so that the knees are right on top of that setup. And it'll help relax through your hips and your lower back. If you don't like that setup, feel free to take those props out of the way. You could also stay with that bound angle if you wanted to stay there. And then we'll come into Shavasana. I'm gonna go ahead and turn out the overhead lights. Guys. So returning to a nice, soft, subtle breath now. Letting your deep core be in the more relaxed state. Soften through the muscles under your ribs, through the low belly, through the pelvic floor, the inner thighs. Just let all those places that we worked just really come into a softening state. And see if you might notice if there's still any sense of tension or gripping in those areas. Imagine you could breathe right into any of the tension you might feel. So when we work on deep inner core strength, it's not only helping us physically as far as giving us that internal sense of support, it can also help us emotionally for sensing that feeling of an inner collapse sometimes when life is challenging, when we've got a lot on our plates, when we're trying to hold it all together. That internal deep sense of support can support us in ways off of our mat as well. So I'll share a little poem from Angie Sullins to close our practice tonight. Darling heart, I see you. Shoulders sagging under a sky that won't speak. Hope leaking from the edges of yesterday's dreams. Today, love feels like a mountain you weren't built to climb. Like the tea has gone cold, like your hands forgot how to hold tight. So here, take this. Tuck it behind your ear like wildflower secrets and let it root. And may you remember you are not required to bloom every morning. You are allowed to be seed, to be soil, to be still. You may know love is not only the grand gesture, the falling star, the kiss that turns the tide. Sometimes love is just getting out of bed with a tired heart and brushing your teeth like an act of rebellion. May you trust that your softness is armor. Your ache is proof you're still open. You still care. You still believe in beautiful things, even if you've forgotten how to say so out loud. May you dare to stay, to sip your tea slowly, to water the wilted places, to tell the shadows not today, to choose the tiniest spark and call it holy. So light your candle, speak your name like it's a prayer. This is not the end. This is a pause, a sacred exhale in the symphony of becoming. Take a moment now and just notice the effects of your practice of creating that sense of support from within. And when you're ready to start to move slowly, little fingers and toe movement, eventually stretch it out or hug knees, whatever feels good, before coming up into a seated position. Once you arrive there, sitting how you like with your legs, but finding that sense of openness across your root, the pelvic floor, nice wide base, centering your head over the center of the pelvic floor. Take a few breaths and just notice the breath after some of that work we did and how the breath relates to this sense of the core and collapse on the inner core and how it relates to good breathing. The sense of the expansiveness of the rib cage when everything is aligned and supported from within. And then we'll bring our palms together in front of the heart space. Take an inhale, and as you exhale, bow to your heart. Namaste. All right, thank you guys. How do we do?